Is everything ready? You turned your head to see your husband standing behind you. Slowly nodding your head to answer his question, you turn your head back to what you were doing. Your husband Jungkook moves back to check if there are any changes in the schedules at the airlines. You and Jungkook were going for the honeymoon trip that both your parents arranged after your wedding 2 days ago. It was not a love marriage, nor was it an arranged one. It was just based on an understanding between the both of you, which only you and Jungkook knew. I'm all set, you announced, pushing the trolley bags to the living room where he was waiting for you. Have you called your parents? A few minutes ago. You responded as you were checking the windows and backyard doors to see if they were locked. I checked them already. I have switched off the gas and pipes. Isn't that all? You nodded a yes, looking at him. There weren't much conversation between the two of you, not just because you were newlywed and uncomfortable, but there were other underlying factors to your disconnect. He grabbed onto the handles of the bags, dragging them out of your apartment while you followed him, locking the doors behind and making sure you hadn't forgotten your tickets. In about 1 hour, the checking process was over and you both were in the waiting section looking around. He left a long sigh. Do you want coffee? Sure. Placing your handbag on the seat where he sat to make sure that no one else sits there, your eyes followed his tall, lean figure walking up to the coffee shop. You inhaled and exhaled heavy breaths, looking around like a criminal on run, afraid of being caught by the police. Here, he spoke from beside you, grabbing your attention. He was pretty quick at coming back after buying coffee. Thank you. Holding your hand on the warm cup, his cold fingers brushed over yours slightly. Quickly removing your bag from his seat, you made space for him where he sat. Once again, there was a silence between the two of you. Your eyes rolled to the side to see his figure looking into the phone. Jungkook was your neighbor and a good friend in your childhood. But you both drifted apart with time and situations. Never did you both take any account of that since you kept seeing each other at some point or the other. Later, you moved to a hostel to complete your studies, after which you didn't see him. And you knew that people do drift apart, but never had you thought that you will end up marrying him and under a special circumstance. 6 weeks ago, Jungkook's point of view. There was a huge line in front of us. There were 5 of us who came to this fancy restaurant for a dinner after we cleared for the job we were all preparing for. But I was getting frustrated by the huge number of people who were in front of us waiting for their reserved table. I cursed at the blonde guy with us who had fancied eating in a 5-star restaurant after getting this job. Now we were all stuck here when we could have gone to a local shop and had a sumptuous meal. I stuck my fingers into my hair, running them to the back, raking my hair, getting briefly out of the line. I made sure to inform the dudes before stepping out of the glass building to get some fresh air. In the parking lot and beyond, I looked to see the buildings which touched the night sky. You ruined the vibe, useless woman. I heard a harsh, deep voice from somewhere that turned my head towards the side. I saw a man holding the arms of a woman tightly while she was struggling to get out of the grip. My eyebrows crashed, creating a frown on my forehead. Is he harassing her? I had reasons to think so, from the fact that they were standing outside a bar and his grip and expression didn't look very good. I moved towards the couple carefully as I didn't know what was going on in between them and I didn't want to get involved unnecessarily. But I'm not comfortable, the woman spoke as my distance with them reduced by every second. Who asked for your comfort? You better behave in front of my friends. He yanked her, making her yelp as I reached them, gaining the man's attention. Is there something wrong? I asked the dude. Nothing, man. Personal matters. He looked back at the girl who was still in his grip as my eyes followed his. Ryan? I was shook. What was Ryan doing here at this hour with a guy like this? What are you doing here, Ryan? I started to talk to her this time as her opinion was anyway more important than the dude's. Hey man, who are you to talk to my girlfriend? He pushed me on my shoulder. I looked at his hands on my chest. Usually, a physical contact like this is a threatening between men, but he was drunk, way more dangerous. Chill man, I'm her neighbor. I flicked his hand away, smiling, trying to ease things. Neighbor or not, she's my girl, and don't get involved, get lost. He waves his hand in the air as if to shoo me away, but I couldn't go. Wyan looked scared with tears in her eyes and hands tightly clasped near her chest. I don't think that she's comfortable here. I suggest you to leave her home. I went closer to her again, but he came in between. I asked you to leave. Don't you understand, man? Or do you want me to talk in some other way? He showed his fist towards me. I found it funny, but I gently grabbed them, pushing them down. Man, I don't want to fight. I'm just making sure that things between you are all right. Who are you to ask about that? He came forward as I put my hands up in surrendering pose, but it was not going to be that way. What is happening, dude? Both our attention went to the side where I saw my buddies walking towards us. That was a great help. I could use some assistance in case. Everything okay? One of them asked. They came to us, standing next to me, looking at the guy who wanted to fight me. The drunk guy glared at me before walking back to Wyan. Go on. Go back with your so-called neighbor. He pointed towards me as Wyan looked even more scared. She shook her head, answering a no. She was clearly uncomfortable. She was scared of this guy, her so-called boyfriend, threatening her again if she decided to leave with me. That is what I could infer from her actions. But I couldn't leave her in such dangerous situations. My conscience wouldn't let me leave her with this guy. Come on, Wyan, I finally said. Jungkook, please go. Please don't make things tougher. She begged, but I didn't budge. The dude looked at me once again and looked back at her, smirking. I'm leaving now. Go with your savior. But I'm your boyfriend, babe. We will always be meeting. He kissed her cheeks, grabbing her chin before walking into the bar, leaving the girl traumatized. That night, I had dropped her home. She didn't protest or cry or talk to me then. I was happy and I was satisfied by my actions. But I hardly knew what was going to come. Jungkook? I felt someone poking my arms. I woke up from the chair where we were sat in the airport. Maybe I fell asleep. I looked at the side to see Wyan looking at me. It is boarding time. I quickly got up from the chair, startling her. I was still half sleepy. I pulled up the handles of the trolley and walked ahead as my wife caught up to me, making 2 of our tickets ready to be punched by the airport staff. She buckled herself up on the window seat as I sat next to her, adjusting my long legs in the economy class. Soon, the plane took off, as we were enjoying music while maintaining that silence between us. 5 weeks ago. Jungkook's point of view. A linen bag hung down from my shoulder as I had just done some grocery shopping. Time was again late 9 p.m. Since my parents were out with their neighbors, I didn't have much to do than to go back, eat something, and sleep. They would probably only return late at night. I looked at the local club across which I walked. I suddenly remembered Wyan for some reason, but soon my ears irked up hearing Wyan's voice. I started to hallucinate her voice. Am I going crazy? I thought to myself. I shrugged it off and walked across a dark alley. But soon I stopped. I felt the urge to look back into the alley. Was God trapping me again in situations I don't want to be? My blood boiled watching the scene. I walked into the dark alley, throwing the cloth bag in my hand. My fist soon landed on the face of my target. A middle-aged creep fell on the floor. I looked to the side to see the person I didn't expect again. Wyan. What the hell are you doing in places like this, Wyan? I almost yelled at her in anger, but soon my anger turned into worry as I saw her figure. She was trembling in fear. I grabbed her arms, dragging her out of the place where the creep was still on the floor from the impact of my punch or alcohol. I quickly waved my arms to call a taxi, which luckily did stop. We both got inside in haste and left the place. As soon as I entered my house, I sat down on the sofa tired. Placing my hand inside my palms, I exhaled. Wine, who was still standing in the corner of the room, silently cried. Her clothes were somewhat torn, exposing her skin in unwanted places. She had a bruised cheek and swollen lips. There were red marks on her neck. Thinking about all of this brought my anger up. I looked at her. What the hell were you doing there? She flinched. My heart dropped seeing her figure. I didn't want to think the worst. I walked closer to her, keeping some distance between us, not invading her comfort zone. Were you with the same guy? I calmly asked, because shouting, yelling, and impatient behavior would only make things worse. She nodded. I felt my energy draining. What did he do to you? I looked straight into her eyes as she tried to make a coherent sentence but broke down crying. I was being impatient again, but I wanted to know if she can come with me to the police to register a complaint. Incidents like this shouldn't go under the carpet. Before I did anything else, I decided to clean her wounds. Making her sit on the sofa, I dabbed the spirit-soaked cotton on her skin. She hissed in pain as I kept concentrating on the wound. Wyan, listen. I started calmly. Who took you to the bar? My boyfriend. She sniveled. Where was he when I found you? He was inside. How did you get in the alley? I took in a deep breath, almost losing my patience when she started to whimper again. Did he know that you were there? He took me there. He took you there and? Who was the other guy, Wyan? His boss. Jungkook's fists tightened. Listening to the situation she has been through, he knew that this has to be reported. Wyan, we have to report this. I made it clear, but her eyes widened. Please, no. No? I can't believe that he tried to use you and you're not going to report this? What the hell is in your head, Wyan? She broke down again. Of course, she was still in the emotional state. But if not reported, this will go on. Men like these won't come into the limelight and will keep abusing women like this. But if we go to the police to report this, Wyan will have to go through the same interrogation and questioning even without any consideration to her mental state. Wyan, you can't let go of this. Jungkook stood up from the place and walked only to feel a strong resistance. He looked down to see Wyan holding onto his legs. She was clinging onto his legs, begging him not to move any further. Please don't. My parents, they will hate me. Why would they hate you? He crouched down to her level, picking her up gently. They don't know about my boyfriend. If they find out that I went out with him... Jungkook sighed, wiping the beads of sweat that had formed on his forehead. He was in dilemma. As much as he wanted to get the culprits under the law, sometimes the procedure was tough and would take its toll on the victim. Interrogations, social stigma, judgment. He was pacing back and forth while Wyan was in the bathroom freshening up. His attention was grabbed by Wyan's phone lighting up. He didn't mean to, but looked into the message that had popped up. Baby girl, you left. I came to know that someone bit my boss. I don't care about that. But you will come back. And when you do, I won't leave you that time. And if you don't, I will make sure that I will get you. You're not going anywhere anyway. And who will be there to save you? So my baby girl should remember that you have nowhere to go and no one to ask help from. His hands gripped on the phone tightened. Wyan, who came out of the bathroom, looked stunned at now reddening Jungkook. Wyan, I need to take your phone. Why? Trust me, this can't be left like that. But I won't put you through any bothersome procedures, but trust me with this. She nodded as she had nothing else to say. Is a veg or non-veg for you? You woke up as you felt someone's whispering sound near your ears. You lifted up your head only to realize that you were sleeping on Jungkook's shoulder. Veg, you answered, as he brought his hand, which was behind your shoulder keeping you stable, towards the steward and took the meal for you. You felt flustered when he moved his body towards the window as he moved back onto the seat and opened the window, which was closed. The both of you wanted to break the silence, but you couldn't deny the fact that you both were nervous in front of each other, that you couldn't utter a single word without any reason. Passed. 2 days after the incident. I didn't see Wayan out for the last few days. I was relieved that as long as she is in her house, with her parents and under my watch, she won't be harmed. In the meantime, I handed over the phone to a friend in the cyber cell. I had a couple of friends who I could trust her phone with. I was expecting a way forward with this issue without bringing Wayan in the limelight. In the evening, as Jungkook was scrolling through his phone watching some documentaries, he received a call. Hello? He received the call from an unknown landline number. Am I speaking to Jungkook? A feeble voice came from the other side. Wayan, is that you? Yeah. Tell me, Wayan, what happened? He sat up on the bed, slowly sliding the curtain, making your house visible to him. He had called me today. He could hear her uneven breaths from the phone. She was referring to her boyfriend. What did he say? There was a silence from the other side. Tell me, Wayne, I'm here for you, Jungkook assured. He asked me to go back to him. Otherwise, he said he would. He would what? He would spread around the word that I. Go on? That I'm a woman with bad character. I could hear her sobs. I breathed out fumes as I heard this. What a cheap man. But his cheapness is enough to ruin the image of a woman in the society. And people, including many girls' parents, would actually believe such rumors instead of their kids. We will find a way, alright? Don't worry about it right now, and don't be a fool and go back to him listening to his threat. He wants that. But what if he... We will see that if something happens, Wayan. Don't come out of the house or go anywhere alone. I hung up the call. My mind was calm and thinking. A day later. You went downstairs as you were called by your mother. Your heart started beating faster as you saw Jungkook in the living room with his family. Was he going to tell everything to your parents? You thought with a beating heart. My son brought up this desire today that we found was wonderful. So we thought nice things shouldn't be kept on wait. They all laughed as you stood in a corner not knowing what was going on. Do you know why and what we are talking about? You nodded a no to her question. We are talking about your marriage. Why didn't you tell us why and that you both are together? Your eyes widened. Jungkook kept it a secret all this time. Such a shy fellow. Your eyebrows crashed listening to her statement. You and Jungkook together? You looked at the man who was all smiley. His eyes met yours as he smiled assuringly at you. I mean, when did this even happen, Jungkook? Your father asked while his smile grew wider. I don't know if it is appropriate to say it here, but I liked her for a long time. Being childhood friends, neighbors, I couldn't help but admire her. We both discussed this later on at some point, but kept it aside for our studies and job aspects. And now that I have a stable job to manage YN studies and a family, I felt that it was the right time to bring up this desire. Nice. That is very thoughtful and planned. I am glad that you are not like some other boys who just wants to play around. You were just silent spectator in the arena. This is how you and Jungkook got married. It was quick and a small wedding. Present. Soon you landed in Jeju Islands. After reaching the hotel, you both proceeded to your room. You started placing the bag in the corner while Jungkook looked out of the big glass door that showed him the view of the majestic sea. Do you want to go out to the beach? Sure, you answered. Putting on a light comfy frock and slippers, you joined Jungkook in the room to go to the beach. A little later, you both were watching the sun set into the vast sea, crashing onto the shores and retreating back. It was calm, as there were only a few people there. There was this unsettling silence between the two of you. You wanted to thank him for the help while also asking why his decision was to marry you. You felt a soft touch on your hand. Looking down, you found Jungkook holding your hands. Come on, let's get our feet wet. He pulled you towards the crashing waves. A slight protest from your side vanished when the water touched your skin. Water has turned warmer. He kicked some water, splashing it across with his feet. You were more grounded in the place, preventing your footwear from being washed away into the sea. Bending down, leaving your hands, it looked like he had found something in the newly brought in sand. He slowly pulled up with a bright smile on his face. He turned to you, pulling your hands once again and opening your palms just to place a white seashell. Isn't it pretty? His eyes sparkled like a 3-year-old discovering the wonders of nature. And there is a tiny hole in it. You can wear it as a pendant, he exclaimed as you looked at the shell he just placed in your palms. Indeed, it was pretty, pale orange stripes on white. You closed your palm, holding it inside. At night in your room, you were silently scrolling on Jungkook's phone, watching some random videos while he was busy with some job-related aspects. During the peaceful walk on the beach, he received a call from one of his friends telling him that he had to submit some documents before the training period of his job starts. So he dropped you in the room and went to get some printouts, and now he was uploading the documents and other things. You saw him constantly sighing, scratching his head. He was probably frustrated due to some technical issues. It was almost 11 p.m. and you saw him massaging his own shoulders, for he had been doing the work for more than 1 hour. You felt bad for him. Though you were shy and didn't know if he would be uncomfortable, you wanted to help him as much as you could. Jungkook's arms were slowly removed from his shoulders and replaced by 2 smaller ones. His eyes on the laptop screen widened a little, feeling your hands on his shoulder. Well, Ryan, you can keep working. He started typing the words again. He bit his lips involuntarily, pleased by the muscles being relieved. He was grateful to the full-sleeve shirt he was wearing that covered the goosebumps that had raised on his arms. Over the week in the islands, you both got so much comfortable with each other. You would smile at his weirdness and found it unique. He found you way more mature than he thought you would be, while he admired your childishness that peeked out occasionally. He already liked you, so it was not hard for him to love you, but he wondered if you could love him back. Having gone through a rough past, it might not be that easy to trust someone again. Jungkook was now in the balcony talking to someone while you were folding your clothes and packing the bags as the vacation was over. You both were heading back. In this 1 week, nothing much had progressed between the two of you, except for the fact that you both had started liking each other, but kept it a secret. Are you sure that her name won't be involved in it? He looked back at you through the glass doors and turned around while on the call. Trust me, he is a link in this business. Ryan is not the only girl he has trapped. There are tons of innocent girls he has scammed and made involved in this business. Probably because of the poor justice delivery. Listen, I will soon contact Michelle and through her we can file this case. It will be efficient. Let me know if you need any more detail. Sure, I will let you know the progress. Jungkook cut the call and came inside the room, meeting the warm air of the heater. He just had a conversation with his friend who has taken up the investigation. They were hoping a positive outcome of this, as his friend had the contacts needed to get through. You looked at his figure who was staring at you. He had probably zoned out. Is there something wrong? You're done packing? Yeah, it is a morning flight, right? Jungkook sighed as an answer. How could he tell her that he wished that they stayed there longer? How could he possibly say that he wanted to walk around the beach talking about absolute stupidity? How could he tell her that he wanted to know her stories? He didn't want her to be uncomfortable with this. After all, it was forced marriage for her, just an arrangement. Soon, they were back after the trip. Jungkook had to soon leave for the training of the job he was inducted into. So, he was leaving you with your parents so that you could comfortably continue your studies. Don't hesitate to call your wife. We will gladly leave her alone. They all laughed in unison as you just looked at Jungkook's figure, who didn't even approach you before leaving. You were disappointed by the fact that he had hugged your father and mother, but he didn't initiate even a conversation with you. You wanted to hear him say that, I will call you on the weekends, or stay safe and do well in your exams. I will miss you, or maybe a hug. After all, you were not asking for a piece of moon. Soon, the cab which you had booked arrived, and so did Jungkook's parents. They placed his bags in the back. You were almost pushed to the back when everyone was busy bidding him goodbye. You didn't complain nor pushed your way to him. He hugged his father once again. When his eyes met yours, a soft smile came to his lips before he moved into the car. The car rolled. All of you waved to him, who waved you back from the car. Your eyes were stuck on his, and somewhere you knew that his eyes were stuck on yours too. Gulping down an unknown emotion within you, you faked a smile to everyone who were genuinely happy about Jungkook leaving for work. In the silent smile, you held the pain which you didn't know how to express. You didn't know how to approach and talk to a husband who left for work 2 weeks after your marriage. You didn't know if you could confess to him that you like him. Would he even believe you if you said that you fell for him this soon? You didn't know how to tell your parents that you missed him. That would sound such a cringe topic. You even doubted if he would call you. Are you on his priority list to call you? On the other side, Jungkook was lost in his own thoughts. The first person to come on his mind in the morning and the last person he would think of before sleep was too far away from him, physically and emotionally. If only he had taken the chances to confess to her, they would be now talking, FaceTiming, or texting about the tiny, insignificant life happenings. The days passed on by. The more the distance increased between them, the more they thought about each other. Jungkook often called Wyan's father, but he was just too nervous to talk to her. One day, on the phone. So, how is the climate there? It is cold here. How is it there? Was raining in the morning. Now it is sunny. It is so unpredictable these days. They both agreed in silence. By the way, you haven't talked to Wyan in these few days. Jungkook got a little nervous hearing her name. He didn't know her father would bring up that topic this soon. Don't you want to talk to her? She misses you. His heart skipped a beat knowing that Wyan missed him. Was she dying to talk to him just like he was? Little did he know that Wyan, who was standing behind the walls, was peeling her nails in nervousness listening to her dad talking to him. Wyan, Jungkook wants to talk to you. He shouted across the room, making her startled. Stop hiding and come out. Come out and talk to your husband. She gulped in nervousness, walking out of her hiding place and holding the phone shaking. Soon her father left the place to give her privacy. Hello? A breathy voice came from the other side. Hello? A shaky voice replied him. How are you? I'm okay. What about you? When are you coming back? Her voice trailed off, thinking what she had asked. Would he think that she was too desperate to see him? I can leave only after the training period ends, so there were too few uncomfortable silences. What was happening to them? They were talking pretty much okay before they got married. Was this how you behave when in love? Should love make you this uncomfortable? We, Dad was planning to come visit you on your passing out ceremony. I will be waiting for you. I mean, for you all to meet me. I should go. It is time for my classes. Sure, I will call later. Okay. They waited in silence to cut the call. None of them dared to do the deed and wait for the other person to do it. Shouldn't we cut the call? Yeah, I will do it right away. Jungkook cut the call, but placed it back on his ears to check if he had actually hung up the call. He left a deep sigh. He didn't want to cut the call, but what will he say to her if he stayed? While on the other side, Wyan still had the phone to her ears. Why didn't they feel this nervous during the honeymoon? 10 months later. The entire family was getting ready to leave. They had their packed bags and suitcases ready at the door. Wyan's mother was checking the windows, while her father was busy checking if the flights were in time. Soon there was a knock at the door. Wyan, check who is at the door. She quickly sprinted towards the door, opening the door to reveal the Jones smiling and giggling. Wow, my daughter looks so beautiful, she complimented as she gave Wyan a long hug. Is everyone ready, Wyan? She nodded as Jungkook's parents entered the house with their share of bags. They were all leaving together to attend his passing out parade. He was going to be a military official after all. Such a prestigious event to be at. Soon the taxi arrived and they all got in. It was a different feeling for Wyan. She has been with her family for tours and to meet relatives and ceremonies, but to meet her husband? How will he be? Will he be more muscular? Will he look more masculine? How will he react to her being there? Would he even care? In the last 10 months, they had no real talk between them, other than the occasional talks over the phone. That too would end too soon due to the nervousness they both couldn't get over. In a few hours, the family had reached the destination. Placing their belongings in the hotel room, they decided to rest for the day in their respective rooms, the ladies in one and the gents in the other. The event is tomorrow. I'm so excited to see Jungkook. Wyan was thrown off balance hearing her. Though she knew the schedule, reminding it was not a good idea. She stared into the mirror she was looking at before. Do I look pretty enough for tomorrow? Skin looks a bit dry. Will he notice it? He will be too busy to notice me. She brushed her silky hair, detangling it, pulling it into a secure bun for the night. Her eyes filled with tears, thinking how much she was suppressing her emotion. Not being able to openly tell anyone. Will he understand her? Did he even feel something for her? Or was she just a wife he had to marry out of necessity? The sun rose soon. The wait was over. Under the tents provided for the spectators sat Wyan and her entire family watching the commander commanding the team under the scorching sun. Soon the parade started. From the distance, it was not clear where Jungkook was. Everyone had similar uniforms and rifles held. The teams walked past the chief guest in unison, turning their heads towards the VIP, giving and earning a salute and walking past them. Are you able to see him? He whispered to Wyan's dad. Not yet. I wanted to take a picture, but they're not letting me. We can take a picture with him after the ceremony. They were all lost in thoughts, while Wyan's eyes were searching for that one figure just to get one glimpse of him. The medals will be distributed to the cadets. Cadets may come to the left side of the dais. Soon the suited men made their way and made a line on the set place. The names were called one by one. The men were climbing up the stairs and accepting their ranks. Nothing interesting till now. After a few minutes, her ears perked up, hearing that one name. Flying Officer John Jungkook. The name was called out thrice. She could see her man walking to the stage. He accepted the medal, standing in attention in front of the chief guest. He saluted the man in front to earn a handshake from him. A few pictures were clicked by an official photographer. After the rank was presented, he walked off the stage. It was a brief moment. They couldn't even see him properly. 4 hours later, the official speech and other functions were done. During this time, the only person who couldn't enjoy it was Wayan. She couldn't even drink water or soft drinks that were distributed to the audience. They finally stood up from their place. It was time for the officers to meet the family and people who were present there for supporting them. Slowly, the buff men walked towards the audience's area, reuniting with their family with big smiles on their face. In no time, her eyes met with a distressed face looking around. Jungkook, who was looking through the crowd to find his family. Through the moving crowd, like a slow motion sequence of a movie, his eyes met with hers. A sweet smile came over his face, finding her. He slowly walked towards them. In the nervous numbness of her body, she almost formed a smile. But soon his eyes left hers when Mr. John hugged his son. "Jungkook, you made it!" Jungkook hugged his father back. "I did it! Thank you, Dad, for being here." His mother's eyes brimmed with tears. Jungkook left his father. Wiping Mrs. John's tears, he hugged her tightly. Wayan's dad patted his back to show his happiness. Jungkook thanked everyone while Wayan was just looking at his face. He had clearly gained a lot of muscles and had tanned a bit. He looked ever so handsome in the military cut. His eyes as mesmerizing as she had seen before. "You are forgetting someone, Jungkook," her mother pointed out to Wayan. Jungkook had a wide smile on his face. He took a slow step towards Wayan, who seemed to have become frozen in her place. He stood in front of her, towering over her tiny body. Gently holding both her hands, he looked into her eyes, which were wet without her knowledge. "I missed you." He moved his body forward, placing a feather-like kiss on her forehead. Just one sentence and touch was enough for her to release all those emotions which she had sealed in her jar. The tears fell from her eyes one by one while her face crunched, turning crimson. Two heavy arms wrapped around her figure, pulling her closer to his chest. She melted into his arms, sobbing lightly. The emotions were too much for him to take as well, leaving a few tears from his eyes. Rubbing her back and rocking her side to side, he smiled through the tears. His love was finally in his arms. Without any words exchanged, they both knew how much they loved and missed each other. There was no place for any distance now. It was clear as the day that they were perfect for each other. How the right person changed their lives. They couldn't believe that they went from just neighbors to strangers, later to husband and wife, and now lovers. Jungkook wondered what would have happened if he didn't meet her that night. What if he was at some local shop instead of that hotel? What if he didn't go out of that line? Nothing in the past and no amount of struggles they went through mattered anymore at this moment, when they were in each other's arms. Everything happens for a reason.